Hi everyone, do you remember that baby doll I bought ages ago? And I think it was around about Christmas or before then. I was going to turn it into something, and I was asking people what they wanted to turn it into. Well, I had a few suggestions. One was like turn it into like a gorgon and that sort of thing. I decided in the end to turn it into a little devil baby, and I'm going to call it Danny the Devil Baby. So what I'm doing now is I'd already removed the factory paint and the cute baby outfit, and I am using epoxy sculpt to create the details on the baby, to create the horns, the teeth, the tongue, and all that sort of stuff. I put some epoxy sculpt in the mouth because I needed to create a tongue, and also to give it a base for the tooth to stay in place, because the tooth was that small. There wasn't a lot of epoxy sculpt in contact with the plastic, so I was having trouble getting it to stay in position. So using a needle and my clay tool, I created a little baby fork tongue for my little devil baby, and just used the needle to shape it. Then I needed to create a tooth, and that was the hardest and fiddliest part. Trying to get that into position, as you can see, was a pain. I kept dropping it, then I couldn't find it. It was really fiddly, so in the end I stuck like a sort of basic tooth shape in, and then used the needle to shape it into a point. So it was fiddly, but I got there in the end. That's what I wanted, was like one little sharp baby tooth in the middle. Then I decided to add a bit of bulk to the tongue, because I decided it wasn't thick enough. Didn't look enough like a tongue to me, and added that fork tongue shape to it as well. And I wanted it like the baby was sticking it out to the side slightly. Then it was time to use the epoxy sculpt to create the eyes. So first of all, I just got a small ball of epoxy sculpt and stuck that into position for both eyes, and then I used some epoxy sculpt to make eyelids. I made the bigger eyelids first and then the smaller eyelids second. The smaller eyelid shapes are the ones to go at the bottom of the eye, and the larger ones go at the top. So I put the eyelid shape into position and smoothed it down and cut it to size, and then using a bit of water and my clay tool, I smoothed it all into position, and then did the same with the top eyelid. And I like how it adds to the expression on the baby. Without eyelids and the 3D shape of the eye, it didn't quite look right, so I thought it'd be better if I add some actual eyes and eyelids to the doll. As you can see, they're nice and simple to make as well. It's just a case of smoothing everything down once you've put the basic shapes on. This eye was a bit more fiddly than the other, but I did get there in the end. And I added some little wrinkle details under the eyelid as well with my clay tool. The hardest part of doing this is making the eyes match. So it's just a case of blending the clay, removing any excess, and then messing about with the shape of the eye just to get it to match the other one. And I went for a sort of almost like squinty type of look. I felt that was the sort of most, I don't know, evil type of shape I could make for the eyes. And then used my clay tool and some water to smooth it down. Now you'll see on the one eye there is a gap between the eye and the nose, so I just had to fill that in with a little bit more epoxy sculpt and just blend that in. I had a look at the hands, but could see that claws were going to be an absolute nightmare because the hands are in little fists. So I thought, forget that, I'll just pretend he hasn't got any claws yet because he's a baby. So I added the points to his ears because I wanted him to have some little pointy ears as well. And I found the second ear more fiddly than the first, as you can see. But in the end I got the desired effect that I wanted to create, which was two little pointed ears. You just have to make sure you blend the epoxy sculpting well so it won't show up too bad when the doll is painted. So you have to get the edges as smooth as you possibly can. Sorry about the focus on my camera. It keeps trying to focus on my hand instead of on the baby. Then it was just a case of tweaking the horns just to get them to the shape that I wanted, and use a bit of water on my finger just to smooth them a little bit. So that's his little devil face so far. And then I just had to smooth down his tooth because there's some wrinkles in it. And then I added a bit of epoxy sculpt behind the tooth as a bit more support, just to make sure that tooth stayed in place. And then smoothed everything down. Then I used some more epoxy sculpt to make another set of little horns on the forehead. I wanted this little demon baby to have 4 horns. I had real trouble with that second horn for some reason, so I had to do it again, but I did get there in the end. I find the epoxy sculpt doesn't stick to this plastic as well as it does to like the vinyl and stuff, but I did manage to get it there in the end. If for any reason these come off when it's dry, I'll just super glue them back on. But hopefully with the epoxy sculpt, once it's set, it should stick in place. It is normally pretty good and sticks to pretty much anything, so it should be fine. Then it was just a case of blending in the edges, and then that's my basic devil baby, demon baby head done. So it's just a case now of letting that dry, and then I'll show you in the next video how I paint it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.